Mario grew up. He was from Mount Laurel, New Jersey, near Philadelphia. He's now living in Midland, Texas. And am I getting that right, Mario? So far?
Cypress, Texas. Midland, that's like if I was drilling
Oh,
oil or
Midland,
something.
sorry. You lived in Midland,
I lived
Michigan.
in Midland, Michigan as a little kid.
Yeah, which was I loved hearing that, because many of our players are from Canada as well as from Michigan. So it was good to
Okay.
hear that you had a bit of a tie-in there. So Mario played, as I said, he played with the New England Patriots. He played in actually 6 different football leagues. The World Football League, the Canadian Football League, the NFL. I don't even know how many football leagues there are, but Mario's
There
played
was one, I found it.
and we're gonna make sure that you sign up to play in a Sport and Social Club football league down near where you're living sometime soon. So Mario, I only want to ask you a few questions, and then I want to open this up. We've got lots of great people here today who are interested in asking questions of you,
Sure.
and that's what this is all about. Before we get into that, though, I actually want to first say a huge shout out to our partner, Skip the Dishes. Skip the Dish. This episode is being brought to us by Skip the Dishes. They are Canada's most popular food delivery app. Hungry Canadians use Skip to order their favorites from more than 20,000 restaurants coast to coast. And I have to tell you, if you guys haven't seen it in the news, Skip the Dishes today announced that they're going to be donating over $15 million to help small restaurants and all their partners during this COVID crisis. Speaking of donating, Mario is donating his time today to be with us. He's just doing this out of the goodness of his heart to help bring some smiles to all of us who are stuck at home. So I wanted to say to Mario, our way of saying to thank you to Mario was, what's your favorite charity, Mario? How can we help your favorite charity? And so we're going to drop the link in for Mercy Ships. Mario, do you want to tell us a bit about what Mercy Ships is?
I don't know too much about them, but I've been watching the commercials on TV, and it kind of really tugged at me with, a lot of kids from impoverished countries that have cliff palates and can't walk the right way. They have doctors that donate their time and then do free surgeries, for these kids. So, they obviously need funding to try to help as many people as they can. So I like that.
That's awesome. So if anyone feels like making a donation today to Mercy Ships to say thanks to Mario for his time, please feel free. We're going to drop the link into this Zoom chat here. Raul will be doing that shortly. So Mario, tell me about what inspired you to become a professional athlete? Where did it all start?
Well, you know what? I was a real skinny kid growing up. I mean, and so I wasn't allowed to play football, not any organized tackle football or anything. My mom wouldn't let me. So I always liked to just watch the football games. I think a turning point for me was watching the Super Bowl with Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Dallas Cowboys in 77, 78, around that time period. And Lynn Swann made this beautiful catch. And I said, wow, I'd love to do that one day. But, obviously when you're skin and bones, you think about how brittle you are, and, that's a violent sport. So I didn't get a chance to play organized football until I was a freshman in high school. I didn't play when I was younger or anything. So it inspired me because I just wanted to do it. I thought it would be cool to wear the equipment and everything, but I wasn't that good. I was probably the worst freshman football player in the United States. I was a fourth string running back, and I didn't really get a chance to play too much.
You told me when we chatted the other day that you had a coach who was maybe the meanest coach ever. Tell me about that. What's that all about?
Well, we'd have to jump from when I was a freshman at fourth string all the way up to when I made it as a rookie free agent to the NFL. I played for a guy named Bill Parcells, and he is a Hall of Fame coach, and he was a very grumpy guy. So it was like first meeting that we had when I was in the, rookies, we just, got a chance to meet all together for the first time. And he pretty much walks into a room. I had a smile on my face, expecting to hear "Welcome to the NFL." Gets on the front and says, "I don't give a F about any." And we all stared at each other. And we were shocked that that was the first thing that he said when he got up there. And he said, "The minute you can't make a tackle, catch a ball, whatever reason why you got here, I'll replace you instantly. So many people want your job, and I'm there expecting to hear "Welcome to the NFL" and, great accomplishment. He said, "Don't make friends with anybody because they may not be here that long."
Oh, wow. Wow.
And so that was where it was.
Wow, that's awesome. Also growing up, so before I ask you another question, I just wanted to let everyone who is tuning in here with us, if you folks have a question that you would like to ask Mario, please feel free to start typing it in to the group chat. There's a chat button below at the very bottom of your screens. And if you type in your question, as moderators will be able to get those asked for you. So we're looking forward to making sure that all of you get your questions asked of Mario. That's what this is all about, is your opportunity to connect with Mario. So Mario, another question I had for you was, what would you say inspired you to become a pro athlete? Like you said, you talked about being a skinny kid and you wanted to play football and you weren't that good. I mean, how did you really keep up inspiration to become pro?
Well, I always felt that I was great. I just needed to bring it out to the surface. So the more I failed, the more I wanted to prove everybody who's ever doubted me. I wanted to prove that I could be able to do something. And I never took my eye off the ball, no pun intended, and, I knew I needed to be faster. I knew I needed to be stronger. So, my freshman year, I went from maxing out on the bench at 110 pounds my freshman year. And by the time I was a sophomore, I did 175. And my 40 time went from 5'2" to 4'7",
Holy cow.
within a 12-month period. And then I kept trying to get faster. I kept on trying to get stronger. And it translated out to me being one of the fastest in the state of New Jersey, because I ran track in high school too. When I was a freshman, I would be getting last in the races. And, when everybody would be partying, having fun, I'd hear about all the parties that I wasn't allowed to go to because my parents wouldn't let me. I would be just being like my own, like, Howard Cosell commentator, talking like I'm the star, throwing the ball up in the air and me making a catch. And I just kept on visualizing success. And that's all I thought about during that time period. And if you tell yourself that enough times, you'll start to get whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. And that's what it was. I wanted to prove everybody I could do it.
So that brings me to, we've got some great questions coming in from our guests here. And one of them actually sort of speaks to what you're speaking about. And you mentioned this the other day. Tell us about it. Is it really true that you couldn't afford shoes for the NFL Combine?
That's a funny story. I was ready. I had one of the fastest 40 times in NCAA coming out of college. I had run about a 4.33, 4.3 flat, right around there. And there was a sneakers called Nike Huaraches. They were like really light. And my parents would have bought them for me if I would have told them that that's what I needed. During that time, all these agents would take you out to dinner. They would do all these different types of things. And the one agent that I had was like, "What do you need?" And I was like, "Well, I need some sneakers." And they're like, "Well, we'll buy them for you." And that was probably a real big mistake, because I go to the Combine in Indianapolis, don't bring any of my own shoes, I'm a size 12, and we're right about to run this 40 time. They bring a size 13 to me, and they're like, here's the shoes. And those pair of sneakers probably cost me a couple $100,000 because my 40 time I ran at the combine ended up being 4.5. And,
Oh my gosh.
and instead of 4.3 flat, I ran a slower time for that 1 inch of sneaker. And my vertical was a 41 inch. At the combine, I jumped to 38 inch.
And
So
so the
because I
lesson,
didn't have a whole lot of stats coming out of college, I was one of the guys that really had to perform well at the combine to get drafted. So then my combine times weren't that good. So it resulted in me not getting drafted. So I watched a torturous 7 rounds and not to have my name get called. And I hate the Cowboys to this day. The bastards called me up like 2 or 3 times during the draft, only to tell me they were drafted. They say, "Are you ready to be a Cowboy?" I'm like, "Yeah." Then they end up picking somebody else, and they're like, "Oh, well, we didn't know he was going to be made available." So it was torture.
painful.
So
So
at the
what, and so
end,
the lesson you took a lesson from that,
oh
from
yeah,
that
you
whole
got to depend on
incident.
yourself. You don't depend on anybody. You depend on yourself because those sneakers, what, $60, $50? So for me being cheap or stupid or whatever the word was, probably all the above, I depended on somebody, and when it was the most important, they messed up my draft stock because of the fact that I didn't perform the way I was supposed to.
Yeah, gotcha. Hey, so that's a great story, and what a great lesson to take away from that, really, right? You
Absolutely.
carry that lesson, you'll never forget that. So we do have a group here that some are Canadian, some are American, and one of the questions from our group is from Trevor. How big of an adjustment is it to transition between the NFL and the CFL?
Oh God.
You've played both.
First, you got to get ready for the coldest damn temperatures in recorded history. We played a game, and I was playing in Buffalo, and I thought that was cold. We played a game in Manitoba. I didn't know what the hell Manitoba was. And we played a game in Halloween at night, and that was the coldest I've ever seen anything ever. I watched in disbelief the Weather Channel for about 2 hours, just
You, you
watching the same
realize
thing.
you realize for kids growing up in Canada, you have to make sure that your Halloween costume can fit a snowsuit underneath. Like that's
Oh my
just
God.
standard. Yeah.
And then the crowd, there was people out there with no shirt on and everything. I was like, these people crazy. So that was an adjustment, and also how wide the field was because I was playing receiver, so I was all the way on the outside. So by the time I looked back where the quarterback was, it almost seemed like it almost seemed like a whole football field. And I was like, man, that's a long throw if they have to throw it to me on the outside. So getting used to how wide the field was about the biggest adjustment.
So that actually, someone else has a question here. Rob wants to know which football league has the best format in terms of rules, field size, the number of downs, et cetera. Which of all the leagues you've played in, which one would you say is your favorite or has the best format?
Well, the arena was weird. That was a very short field, and then you got this hockey type thing that you can get pushed into, and I didn't like that. I played 2 or 3 games in that, and I was like, the hell with this. I'm not playing this. But Canada, I didn't like the 3 downs. I didn't like that runners took a head start. It was pretty exciting though if I was watching it, but to play it, I would say the American football because it was what I was used to. So I can't
Sure.
say that the Canadian way wasn't that good because I didn't grow up under those rules. So it was something I had to learn, and it was just weird to me because I kept on thinking, trying to make the American comparison. But I'll tell you what was impressive was some of those Canadians that I never even heard of before, and they were good. They were like really, really good. Some of those receivers, I was like, man, they catching everything out here. And that was they weren't that fast, but they weren't dropping anything. And so that was probably the biggest adjustment that I've seen was that the way they caught, they didn't drop too many balls.
Well, they grew up with their fingers being cold, I guess, so they were kind of used to it, right?
They snatched that rock, man.
Dave wants to know, can you tell us when you were in the NFL, how much was enjoyment of playing the sport and how much was just grueling work? And which did you experience more of?
Well, that's a real good question because growing up, you start thinking of the game as this fun game, but you start to see the reality that it's so wrong because about when we got to practice, we had to be at the stadium taped at 8 a.m. And if meetings was starting, Parcells would always have like an old stupid time, like 7:57, the meeting would start. And if you came in a minute late, you could come in at 8 o'clock late because the whole team would be at 57. But then you walk in at the time you're supposed to, look at you like you were crazy. But every minute you were late, and this was back in '94, was $100 per minute you were late. So people really weren't late. So you start to see that it was a job because everything was so precise on where you had to have it. So once you ate breakfast at the stadium, you came out, you were in meetings for 2 hours and 2 to 3 hours, and then you would be going to practice, and then everything was scripted. So you didn't get a chance to just go out there and have fun because you had to study your opponent every single step of what they did. They studied every single component of everything. And I didn't know there was that many meetings, because when you're in college, you have some meetings. But pros, you're meeting all day long. And then when you mess up, they're watching every play. They're looking at the same play you did at least 25 times, and you're getting yelled at the same play.
So it felt more. So was it feeling really more like work than?
It definitely is work. It's definitely work. You end up getting the pride of wanting to win the game by the time you get in the game. But up to the time you play in the game, it is a job.
Interesting. Okay. Cal would like to know, what's the number one piece of advice you have for an aspiring athlete, for someone who's trying to make it to the pros?
I would say the biggest aspect to know is you got the smallest window to make your impact. Because after 2 years, you're either going to make it, be on the practice squad, or whatever it is. But that third year, the NFL guys has to give you a pension. So they get rid of people before that third year starts up. And every year you make it in the NFL, you need to buy a franchise. So then when you get out, you own a business that's generating you money. So some guys don't understand that when you're making all that money, that's supposed to be for the rest of your life. So that's not something that you get. And by the time you get a pension, you might be out of NFL at 27, 28 years old. You're not getting a pension until you're like 59. That's like a whole nother lifetime. So you got to make the money that you make you money. And in the NFL, when you're at that age, you think you're invincible. You can't think. Like by the time I was in the NFL, I ran a 4.2. So you couldn't tell me nothing. You could say, line somebody up. I don't care who you are. I'm running past you. So I was a low man on the totem pole. In my mind, I did not yield 1 ounce of superiority to anyone else because I believed that if you put me up against Deion Sanders, I'm taking his ass deep. It doesn't matter. And that's how you think when you're an NFL player.
So you touched on sort of the investing aspect, and a few people are asking about your book. You wrote a book, How to Hire Your House. How does your house pay you? And the other question was just related to that. Really interested in your experience with finance. The book you wrote on leveraging your house and your retirement message to NFLers. How has your outlook changed? Any advice in today's age for those in our mid-40s?
So what happens when you become broke, you become very inspired. So an athlete is geared to be broke. You will spend that money. Even the guys who were millionaires that was on my team in '94, most of them are broke now. So what happened was I started to realize and I started to study because I was one of the broke guys. It didn't take me long to get broke, but I wanted to understand the financial system that got me broke. So I started to really start to understand finance and credit and real estate and insurance. And, I started to, somebody brought me this mortgage accelerator tool to show you how you could bypass interest and attack principal on a 30-year mortgage. So it was showing people how to pay off a house in 10 years instead of 30 years. And I was like, wow, that's like the biggest thing in the world to me once I saw that tool. Then I knew about when I made it to the NFL and I came out and I got my insurance license. All they were trying to do was to show me how I could approach NFL players to show them how to use index life insurance for them to create their own pension. And, you know, those guys weren't trying to hear anything because they were like, I got a long time. You never know when your stuff is going to end, and you think you're invincible, like I mentioned. So it didn't really work with NFL players, but it put a bug in my mind that if they're telling rich people and wealthy people to do this, why couldn't the average person do this? And then I put everything together and I said that if the average person's biggest net worth is their house, if they could pay it off and they could refinance after they pay it off, where could they put that equity? And then I thought about the insurance policy. Then I created a whole method then to accelerate a 30-year mortgage, refinance, dump the equity in the insurance policy, do that 2 or 3 times depending on how old you are. And then now the insurance policy will create a pension and pay you for the rest of your life. So you don't run out of money, because that was the scariest thing in my lifetime when I didn't have any money. When you go to an ATM machine and you slowly see that balance start going like this, it's a scary feeling. And then when you don't even have the fee, when they tell you that the $2 fee is more than you have in your bank account, that's when it's real. So I've experienced that. And when you experience that, I couldn't imagine being old, ran out of money, and then this happens to you. And the mathematical equations from my 20 years of studying what you call the retirement crisis, the average person who have these 401ks that don't have pension programs anymore, they're going to be broke. You're going to run out of money. Mathematically, it's impossible. If you live too long, you're going to run out of money. That's why I created my book.
Awesome. Well, that's pretty impressive that you've done that, and it sounds like some great lessons in there. Speaking of lessons, someone wants to know if you have children. I believe you do.
Yes.
Would you want them playing football?
That's an awesome question, and I'm going to answer it honestly. No. My boys played. I got 2 17-year-olds, and they played all the way up until they're 11 years old. But then what happened was I was getting all the literature from the concussion stuff. And then my coach, my last coach that I played with, died of the CTE. And he donated his brain to Harvard, and his daughter wrote a documentary. Excellent. You can Google Rebecca Carpenter, because I forgot the name of her documentary, but it was incredible. And what happens is when you have a helmet, that can't stop the concussion. Because when your brain is in fluid, you get hit, your brain is hitting against the skull. And that's what's going to create the damage. I love the sport. You know, but my boys play basketball. I curb them out of playing the sport because they're smart kids. Their grades were a hell of a lot better than mine. I don't know where the hell they're getting these straight A's from, but you know, they're straight A students. So I don't, and they both want to be entrepreneurs. My biggest accomplishment wasn't the NFL. The biggest accomplishment that I've had was I haven't had a W-2 paycheck since the NFL, being broke. I haven't worked for anyone. After the NFL did me the way they did me, I said I'll never let a human being dictate what my self-worth was. So I determined I was going to be self-made. I want them, you know, at a certain age, they made a determination because I gave them the data. And I said, look, when they got to high school, I said, you're old enough to choose your own path, but I'm going to give you this data. And then when they went and started to meet some of my former ball players, there's a guy who I know that needs a GPS to go home every day.
Ugh.
needs a
Yeah,
GPS to go home every day because his brain can't remember where to go. He's only 44 years old. Played with the Jets, had multiple concussions. So it's, to me, I know it's not worth it.
so that's a good. Thanks for sharing all that. The documentary I believe you're referring to is called Requiem for a Requiem.
Yes,
How do you say that word?
Red Queen.
Requiem for a running back, and that's been typed into the chat for those of you who want to check that out. Okay, we are slowly. We got a few minutes left here, and this has been fantastic. We have so many more really great questions. I don't know. Quickly, Todd would like to know, you started as a fourth string running back. What other positions did you play throughout your career?
Only receiver. After my freshman year of embarrassment and being the laughing stock of my team, I went to play receiver that summer. And then for whatever reason, I had a knack because I was a baseball player when I was little and I played center field. So catching a ball came naturally to me. So then when I went to Penn State football camp, I got awarded the best receiver of the camp. And that felt good coming from fourth string running back. A varsity my sophomore year, was an all-state my junior year, was all-American my senior year. And that was coming in from an offense that ran the ball about 70% of the time.
That's great. So I'm going to ask you one more question, and I actually already know the answer to this. One of my colleagues has typed in a question, and you and I spoke about this the other day. Are you still able to enjoy playing sports recreationally, or after playing at such a high level, is it difficult to scale back your competitiveness and do it just for fun?
I played in a league
Do you want to tell us?
I played in a league that was related to what you guys are doing. And I'll tell you what, I had a great time. We played dodgeball. And the competitive spirit never leaves an athlete. I wanted to win. And, you know, it really got my juices flowing being on that team. And, you know, I'll be like, come on, guys. And, you know, I love the recreation. If my knees were better, you know, from playing all that in that AstroTurf in the 90s, my knees are horrible. But if I was able to play without a lot of level of pain, I would be playing. You guys are so lucky playing these social clubs. I can't say enough about it on how great that was. And, you know, kudos to you. Give people the morale while we're into this virus that none of us really can control what our circumstances are. You to keep morale up, and you know that's kudos to you on that. I know a lot of my teammates that I played with stated that they can't wait to talk to you guys. So whatever you didn't ask me, I got some other good guys that can be able to answer questions, you know, from wherever. The answer is yes. Hell yeah, you can enjoy
awesome.
it.
That's awesome, Mario. Just so you guys know, the league Mario was talking about that he played with was Playmore Sports in New Jersey. That the club that's run by our good friends Matt and Mark Denafo, that many of you guys know from our Sport and Social Industry Association. So it was fun to hear that Mario had played dodgeball, I think back in 2012. And it's good to hear that, you know, you can play at such a high level in one sport, but you can keep playing even at the most recreational of levels, and those competitive juices, you never lose that, right? So that's awesome.
I'm gonna leave you with one quick story. My rookie year, I wasn't slated to make the team because, you know, I was a rookie free agent. They gave me number 12, which is like an insult back then. Now it just happens to be Tom Brady's number. So that's pretty cool. But they told me we were playing the Rams. They told me that they were going to throw me 3 balls that game. They told me this the night before. And if I dropped any of those balls, they were going to cut me. And I had to go in the night knowing that I was going to get 3 opportunities. If I dropped any of those balls, that was going to be it. And so that first ball that you saw was the first catch that I had that was on there. And then I had 2 more catches. So from that particular time, there wasn't anything on earth that intimidated me because I had hundreds of thousands of dollars riding on catching that. So That is the mentality of an athlete. You got to be able to face fire and not be scared and believe in yourself where nobody else will.
That's fantastic, Mario. Thank you so much today. I'm not sure if I'm breaking up. I think I might be breaking up here. I just want to say, Mario, thank you so much from all of us to you
I had a good time.
For spending your time with us. It's
Absolutely.
important. I want to remind everyone that we don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing. So everyone remember, keep playing. Thanks for joining us today.
Guys, take
See
care.
everyone later. Thanks
Thank
a
you.
lot, Mario.
All right.
Bye, gang.